Welcome to the Career Ready Podcast. Learn about resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, and all things you need to be career ready with the Career Service Center at College of DuPage. I'm one of your hosts, Pierre. Later on, you will hear my interview with Kash, a student at College of DuPage that has been active in her career research process. But first, I want to welcome back Michelle Malik to the podcast.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be back. And I'm going to start our episode today with a listener question about next steps after receiving a job offer. So later in today's episode, Pierre is going to be interviewing a student about their career journey, and we actually have a listener question that involves one of the final steps of the job search process, which is a job offer. A listener asked, I'm in the process of searching for a job and have completed a final round interview with a company. What should I keep in mind if I receive a job offer? First, obviously, congratulations to you. That's really exciting that you reached the final step with the company. And here are some things to keep in mind before making it official. So a company is probably going to give you a verbal offer. And I know it's tempting, but you don't have to accept the job offer on the spot because you still may want to negotiate. So this is really your time to negotiate salary, benefits, tell the employer about any planned time off that you have as well. And also, if you receive that verbal offer, I would ask for an offer letter as well to be sent to you via email, just so you can review that offer and think of any questions that you have. It's just a really good time for you to take some time to process all of that information. An offer letter is also a way to ensure that you and the employer are on the same page, and it's good for documentation purposes because having only a verbal offer really leaves room for misunderstandings. Also, in your offer letter, these are some things that should be included. So obviously, you want to have your salary in there, benefits you've agreed upon, any bonuses, your start date, and pretty much any other important information about the job that was discussed between you and the employer. Also, when you're having that conversation with the employer about the job offer over the phone, you want to ask what the employer's preferred timeline to accept or decline the position is. Is it a few days? Is it 24 hours? Maybe it's a week from when you speak. It's important to know how long you have to make your decision because you don't want to keep the employer waiting. Now, once you've received the offer letter, obviously be sure to review it. And if something is missing, you can always ask the employer if they'd be able to add it to the letter. So for example, maybe you're typing up an email and you can say something like, we talked about XYZ and it doesn't appear to be in the offer letter. Could this be included, please? It's also important to note that before you receive an offer, you should be thinking about your salary and benefits expectations, as well as doing research on these important factors just to make sure that you can get the employer an answer within a reasonable amount of time. You don't want to be spending your time or the time that they give you researching this now, so you want to be prepared. We also have an episode on salary negotiations in season 4, episode 34, if you do want to check that out. And once you've looked over the offer and gotten all of your questions answered, it's time to accept or decline. So this is a great question from our listener. We really appreciate you sharing. And now it's time to tune into Pierre's interview.
For today's episode, I'm excited to have Kash with me to talk about her experience exploring careers. Kash is a student at College of DuPage, and I was fortunate to connect with her a few semesters back. At that time, she was early in her career planning and has made progress along the way. I look forward to having her share part of her story with you. Welcome, Kash.
Hello. Excited to be here.
So as we get started here, can you provide a quick introduction, or as we would like to say, your elevator pitch?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kash. That is the nickname I go by. It's just a condensed version of my very ethnic name, which is Kash. And I work in remote sales. And basically what that means is I help people facilitate the most optimal decision for them and break out of limiting mindsets to help them invest in themselves.
And that's a great way to think of engaging with people, to help them invest in themselves. So I like to hear that. And you invested in yourself a while back, which got us connected. You participated in a program called Career Launch that we were doing, and we don't need to get into the specifics of the program. But can you share some key things you learned through the program and how you have utilized those to help you advance down your own career journey?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that Career Launch really hit upon and really talked about was networking. networking and putting yourself out there, and even the following up process of networking. And connecting that in remote sales, that's exactly what we're all about. And that's exactly what we have to do to really find roles and get ourselves recognized and work on visibility and really flourish in the industry. So I feel like that was a good transferable skill that Career Launch really hit upon.
I'm glad you were able to take that away from Career Launch and use that as we move forward. And I do want to talk more about networking and those different conversations in a moment, because those are a big part to researching careers. But before we get into that, can we talk a little bit about your experience going through that traditional career research and the type of experiences you went through with online research or books and non-connection driven ways of exploring careers?
I actually don't have much experience doing it the non-connection driven way, simply because connection driven has been such a success for me. Doing it that route has not only gotten me recognized, but it's also got me visible. And not just that, I don't really go to apply for jobs that much. Jobs actually came to me. I had recruiting managers and offer owners come to me asking if they could personally interview or work with me. And then that's how things got kicked off. So because that pathway worked so well, I feel like I didn't have to go the non-connection driven route.
Yeah, it's great to hear that, because I recall from when we first got connected, you were really lost. So just sticking with some of these non-connection ways, I know you were involved though, right? You were trying out different things. So I guess that could fall into this as well, of just being engaged on campus and doing some different things. So can you just expand on how you got stuck doing those things before you were able to participate in Career Launch? Just what were you doing to look at some different careers?
Back then, I was frantically looking for something, something that I could pour my skills into. And I had a pretty good issue within me. So a lot of people, they may be confused on what to do. I was confused on, I have too many interests. Which one should I commit to? So one thing that really helped navigate my journey was using social media. So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and following a bunch of people in particular programs or particular careers and seeing what their day-to-day life was all about, watching their vlogs, seeing what tasks that they had to do. And something that really stuck out to me was sales. But not just sales, particularly ethical, first principle-based sales. And I understood that this could not only help me help other people, but it could also help me become a better person, because there's a big self-developmental part to it.
Yeah, so you were able to utilize some of those things that were in front of you, but you still hit those roadblocks. You weren't really able to grasp what your different options were and really help you move forward. But then you took the Career Launch approach. You started networking. You started creating connections. So let's go ahead and spend time talking about this, because I know this is where you've really had some success. So how has that networking impacted your guidance through the career planning?
Well, first of all, it not just connected me with people that were hiring, it connected me with people within the industry and people working with people in the industry. And they showed me a lot about what their roles were about. So not only did I get knowledge based on the roles that I was going for, but roles that would support mine. This way, I got like a plethora of knowledge on like, if I didn't want to go this route, there's still other routes that I can take. And there's still other people that I could network with that can help me get there.
Yeah. And I want to take a small step back here. Right? You are talking about having these conversations and they lead to these opportunities. But how did you determine that these are people that you want to reach out to?
I will say in the very beginning, I had very little knowledge on who to reach out to. What my mentor suggested was I just put myself out there first, start posting. It could be my thoughts, how I'm improving day by day, new mindsets that I'm going into, etc. With that approach, a lot of people came to me. So at first, a lot of professionals came my way. And then with that, I would always ask them in our Zoom calls, hey, are there any other individuals that you feel like could help me out with my situation or with my questions? And they were the ones that connected me with others. So I feel like through that route, helping others help me, that really helped me flourish on who I want to network with and who I want to branch out to.
Yeah, I think that's all great information to process. You were going through this and you were a little intimidated, and someone just gave you that advice of put yourself out there. So you use social media, you put yourself out there, and then from that social media visibility, you had some people reaching out to you because you were able to promote yourself, market yourself well. And then from those connections, you were able to expand into new connections. And so I think that is a great way to just kind of get the ball rolling. Can you share a memorable networking encounter that really helped you move forward here?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of my networking done is through Facebook, mainly. And on Facebook, what a lot of us sales professionals do is we like to showcase our inner thoughts and what we like, what we dislike, or even our everyday lives, basically. So once upon a time, earlier this year, I posted a picture of ramen noodles, just me out with friends enjoying ramen noodles. And a big leader in the space actually contacted me because he also liked ramen noodles. And through that, we started a conversation and he got to know my personality and I also got to know his. And I made a very fantastic connection just like that. So I think putting myself out there, not just professionally, but also in a way that showcases my persona has helped me have very memorable networking encounters as well.
Yeah, it's your genuine self that you were able to present out there. And I think people realize that. So then they get comfortable reaching out to you. And then you took it upon yourself to respond and leverage that, right? So I think that's a good note when we think of using social media in general, right? You're talking about Facebook, but being able to put ourselves out there, people respond to us. And then that's that invitation, right? Being able to jump on that, where I think a lot of people may get intimidated because it's still a stranger. It's an industry leader that we may want to get connected with, but there's some of that intimidation.
Right.
But if we can just take those steps, that helps us move forward.
Absolutely.
So kind of going back more so to that career research exploration piece, and we talked a little bit about how you got stuck before, but are there some other barriers you encountered through that process, and how were you able to navigate them?
I just didn't know what to do in the beginning. And how did I navigate them? I mean, I either ran to you guys or basically ran to my mentor. And it was you guys as a collective that kind of gave me a lot more focused insight on how I can navigate the individuals that I want to reach and how I can get their attention, or how I can also keep a record of who I'm keeping track of.
Yeah, right. So the keeping records, the following up, those are all really important things. Those are things that we've talked about in the past. I'm glad that you say that Career Services was here to help navigate that. But you mentioned your mentor. I want to talk about your mentor a little bit, because to find a mentor is really valuable.
Right.
So can you just share a little bit more about how you first got connected with your mentor, maybe how that relationship developed so then they became a mentor, and like how you tap into that resource now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I viewed investing in mentorship as the same way I would invest in my education at university or college. How I got connected to him, I was actually referred by someone else. So someone else knew of his mentorship program and mentioned, hey, this guy seems credible. This guy seems to know what he's talking about. And so I got his information. I went through all of his Facebook and Instagram to see what his values are and whether I want to invest in him or not. I formed a list of questions that I wanted to ask him on a one-on-one chat. And I also interviewed people that went through his program to see if I could fit somewhere in there too. Because of course, not every mentor can help everyone, right? Depends on their personality and how they gel with you or not. So that was kind of my process of finding a mentor and investing in one. And that's exactly how I got where I am now.
And I think that's good to hear, because a lot of times people look for mentors in a more organic way, which I think is a great way to do it. But it sounds like you got connected with this individual through a more formal channel, but you did your research first, right? When those organic mentorships happen, it's because you build a rapport and it's just someone that you can naturally lean into. But here you did your research to make sure that they were the right person that you wanted to be associated with, that they were doing the types of things you wanted to move forward. So you talked about getting connected with them, how you did that research. Can you just talk a little bit more about that relationship and how that mentor has really guided you forward here?
So in terms of how I've cultivated a good relationship with my mentor, I update him every single week. I have one-on-ones with him. And it's not just career-wise, it's also self-development-wise. You know, he calls me out if I have a limiting mindset, and then we get a plan to work on it to kind of break out of that so that I could progress in another area of life, which will inevitably help me in my career. And then the way that my mentorship works in terms of guidance, so we have classes every week. He basically teaches a small group of individuals. And in those classes, we talk not just about the field itself of remote high-ticket sales, but we also talk about self-development, mental health, simply because sales is a form of energy, right? Sales is forming human connection. So you have to be your ultimate best, as best as you can be, in order to gain trust and to really sell ethically. So that's how that's constructed. And, anytime I had a roadblock, anytime I had a new offer or job come my way, I always consulted with him first. So my method of receiving guidance was really help others help me. So putting myself out there, staying in constant communication. So lots of documentation as well. You know, every time I hit a roadblock, journaling it, recording it, and then receiving help, and then recording the impact, and then going back for data so that my mentor also gets feedback to help me.
Yeah, I think that's great information. Thank you for sharing that, because what I'm taking away from that is a lot of vulnerability. You are really opening yourself up to this mentor. And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of people. Even when they find these people that they know can be helpful to them, they still want to put on this brave face and say, oh, things are going well. But when you can open up and, take some of those notes and just feel comfortable sharing that with them, I think that does let people come alongside you and really help guide you forward. So I think that's an important thing for people to take away here is being able to be vulnerable with other people. You've talked about the mentor a lot. Before we get back on track to our other questions that we were planning, I've got one more follow-up here. Just the idea of the networking and building up these connections. Do you think that there are others that you have been able to network with, maybe not to the level of your mentor, but that you could really tap into and seek out some guidance from?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about networking is that you have your own tribe now. So it's not just my mentor that I go to 100%. It's also the network I've built around that. And that's something he encourages as well. It's not just him that has all the information. There's also other people that I formed connections with and even good friendship with through my networking process that I could totally go for help, whether it's help career-wise or mental health-wise or even forming a new habit. If someone has that, they're the best source to go to.
Well, I'm glad that you've expanded your network. You've been able to connect with some of these other people. So I've got a series of questions here to really let our listeners walk away with things beyond your story. So what advice would you give to others who are feeling overwhelmed or are just starting through this exploration process?
People that are feeling overwhelmed, oh gosh, see, I'm getting reminded of my previous self because I was very stressed, very overwhelmed. But again, I just ran to you guys. We do have a resource in this college, obviously the Career Services Center, and we have an entire team of people. So just going to you guys and being vulnerable there and just telling you what I'm stressed about, what I've done so far, if I'm doing it wrong, and then receiving feedback, implementing that, and then showing you guys results, and then getting more feedback to just go out and implement. That alone has helped me a lot, not just internally, but also understanding what the world has to offer in terms of reaching for careers and navigating them as well.
And if you're a listener that you don't have access to our office, some other office, just tap into those resources that are out there, right? They can provide great guidance for you. So kind of along those lines, what resources or tools would you recommend to other job seekers outside of a career services center?
Outside of career services, I will say there is a ton of information on social media, a ton. And now we have ChatGPT. So just asking ChatGPT, here are my skills. What careers can I possibly do with this? Or even the type of life you want to live, it can give you a good amount of information on how to get there, even step by step on what to do day by day if you simply ask it. And then social media, exactly what I did in the very, very beginning, just exploring a bunch of careers. And there's a lot of people that like to vlog and put their personality out there and speak about what their day-to-day tasks are like. So envisioning myself doing that, understanding, do I like this? Do I not like this? And really being honest with myself and asking myself all those questions, that really helped. And then, of course, local libraries. If you don't have like a college near you, then certainly you'll have a library. And talking to the librarian and even checking out books that talk about careers and career research, that I found pretty helpful as well.
Good number of resources there. I do want to do my quick AI disclaimer here. I'm a big fan of AI. I've embraced it. I have conversations with it all the time. But don't think that what you're getting from it is the absolute power. You have to be very aware of that information, but I think that's a great starting point just to get some ideas and then build off of that, look into things outside of your AI platform, but use these other resources to help you get going. So earlier you were telling your story and how you've been able to put yourself out there on social media, and then people just started reaching out to you, right?
Yes.
So what role does your personal brand play in all of this?
I would ask what it doesn't play, because I feel like the personal brand was everything. That's exactly what got me out there. That's exactly what gained visibility and really put me in the forefront of many applicants for lots of jobs that had 100+ applicants. It gained a lot of favorability for me simply because when you speak to a recruiter, their main principle, their main curiosity is, can this individual do this job well? Does this individual have what it takes? Do they have the persona, the mentality, the personality? The thing is, if you put that all in your personal brand, you've already answered a lot of their questions already. And they're going to favor you because you've already answered a lot of their curiosities. And that just makes things a lot easier, not just for you, but also for them.
So it sounds like being very aware and strategic in what you're presenting to manage that brand is a key piece to that.
Being aware for sure. Strategic now, again, you don't want to be so strategic in which you're so professional and uptight that you're unapproachable. There's a question I always have in mind, and it's what I'm putting out there. Who is my audience? Who do I want this side of me to be showcased to? And just having those in mind, I have a good framework on what I put out there. So I guess maybe that's a strategy within itself, but you don't want to be too strategic that perfectionism comes in and then blocks you, basically.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, right? So you have to have a plan, but you don't want to over-filter yourself and then create this very sterile image that isn't inviting.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we get set to wrap up here, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners?
One thing that I see when people work on their personal brand or putting themselves out there or even networking is fear. Fear, perfectionism. A lot of people are overthinking, and these are all things that I have also came across. It's very normal, especially with all the pressure that's out there. The thing is, it's those who put themselves out there that really get fed. You can't feed a closed mouth. So just putting yourself out there and not overthinking it too much, whether it's your process, whether it's something that you've discovered, or whether it's even talking about a new hobby. I got a big leader come to me and chat with me simply because I posted ramen noodles for fun. It could be something as simple as that, but putting yourself out there is super, super important. And I've seen it firsthand on how people get jump-started on particular opportunities, which they may not be qualified for on paper, but simply breaking out of perfectionism, breaking out of their limiting mindsets, and showcasing themselves has helped them a lot. And they've gained a lot of confidence that way, and a lot of conviction and a lot of self-trust within themselves. So that's kind of something I want to tell our listeners, that it's difficult. It's scary at first, but only at first. And it stays in the at first step only.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great words to hear, because I know there's a lot of people that are intimidated about this. But then when they go out and they start doing it, it may be scary, but it becomes more natural, and then you become more comfortable with it. So thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for giving this insight in how networking has let your path evolve and created opportunities for you, and sharing additional insights through all that. So again, just thank you for being here and sharing this information with our listeners.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I got to do this. So thank you guys.
What a great interview with Kash. I learned a lot of information today.
Yeah, she's a wealth of information. She's gone through this. It was just, a little over a year ago that I got connected with her the first time. And, she's grown so much, applying that information. So with that wealth of information she was able to share, what stood out to you?
Yeah, so honestly, the use of social media to kind of put yourself out there, I thought that was really smart, like a smart way to network, but I just haven't really thought of that way to network before. Like you think of LinkedIn or going to career fairs or something like that, but I didn't realize you could use social media to also network with people.
Yeah, the digital connection, no matter what platform, has that value. Even after we were done recording, the conversation continued, and she talked about networking with TikTok, right? It's out there. You just have to be comfortable to do it.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but it made me feel comfortable that she uses Facebook, because I feel like nobody uses it anymore. So I was like, oh, okay, like it's still in, like it's still cool.
I think it's having a little bit of a resurgence here. People are gravitating back towards it. Facebook still has a lot of presence. So that is an important factor, right? Anytime you're networking, it's, am I able to reach people?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it was cool too that when she was talking about networking, kind of forming her own tribe, and just not even for networking purposes, but also she was talking about mental health and just connecting with people for any type of support. So I think as you're networking and trying to figure out your career, that's something to take advantage of.
Yeah. And I really liked how she used that word tribe. Like it just stuck out to me, because a tribe is a family, and it's a group of people that look out for each other.
Right.
So being able to really think of her network as a tribe is great, and I hope more people can get into that comfort zone of thinking that I'm making these connections so they can be there, so we can look out after each other in the future.
Right, because I think when you're exploring careers, as Kash talked about, it can get very overwhelming. So I think you just need somebody who's been in your place before to kind of help guide you along that process.
Yeah, I loved hearing about her mentor and, then the other people in her network that she could just reach out to for that support.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is it sounds like the Career Launch program really helped her, because she was talking about how in her current role, she is in sales and she has to put herself out there. So I just thought that was kind of cool that she made the connection between how Career Launch helped her and her career.
Yeah, when we think of networking, right, that's what Career Launch is. If you're not fully familiar with it, we've talked about it in previous episodes, but it's a program that we run through the Career Service Center here at College of DuPage. It's part of a greater program that has been created. Again, just those best practices in networking. We talk about it from that career exploration standpoint and being able to reach out to people and connect with people. But the idea still applies once you're on the job. And in her case, being in a sales role and just needing to network and connect with people.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think I just wanted to end on the fact that, she talked about fear and perfectionism kind of holding us back. I loved how she said it's only scary at first, But it sounds like through her practicing her skills and networking with people and connecting with her mentor, she was able to feel more and more comfortable as she went along.
Yeah, and I know for some people that fear won't go away. There's just anxiety with it. But hopefully being able to push yourself, the fear may not go away, but you grow a little bit more comfortable going through that process and being able to connect and realize that there really isn't harm in just reaching out to other people.
Exactly. And to your point, Kash did say you can't feed a closed mouth. So I thought that was a really great quote. And hopefully it motivates our listeners to reach out for guidance when they need it.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle, for helping me digest that conversation and that information. And thank you to our listeners. Special thanks to Kash for joining us on the podcast. We hope you found insight in the information that she was sharing. We answered a listener question earlier in the episode. And if you have a question you want to hear answered in a future episode, you can submit it to careerpodcast@cod.edu. As we end here, we encourage you to join us for our next episode, where we will be talking about doing career research during a career break.